This is the Sony ZV-E1, and I just love this camera. The quality for the price is just insane. It's packed with so many incredible features, but I think therein lies the problem. They've packed it with so much horsepower, it can't even handle itself. I've said this before, but it feels like a monster truck engine in a Honda Civic body. It's got the muscles of a bodybuilder on the frame of the world's skinniest man. It has too much power, and it overheats very fast if you use the more demanding features, which I have recently kind of fallen in love with. What can I say? I love shooting everything in 4K 60, and even worse, I love using the iPad wirelessly as a monitor. This became my workflow for a couple projects recently, and it's terrific, but when I tried to shoot like that for these longer talking head style shoots, it just overheated on me very fast. See, I guess that was my mistake, because when I'm camera shopping and a camera says it can use an iPad as a monitor and it can shoot 4K 60, my lack of experience made me believe, that it can actually do those things. I mean, it can do those things, it'll just catch on fire. Okay, after my recent video, a lot of you in the comments suggested I buy this Ulanzi fan and that it might solve all my problems. Did it? Well, let's find out right now. Let's go run a few tests and see what happens. In this first test, I'm shooting in H.265 at 4K 60 in S-Log3. I have the Creator app open and am running my iPad as a monitor. I have the camera in a big airy room, and FYI, I had the thermostat set to 21.5 degrees Celsius or about 71 degrees Fahrenheit. Without a fan, it lasted for 20 minutes and 20 seconds before overheating. I let the camera cool down for a couple hours, then ran the test again with the exact same settings, but this time I'm using the Ulanzi fan on the highest setting, and here the camera lasted for 28 minutes and 44 seconds. Over 8 minutes longer recording time, not bad. That's 8 minutes and 24 seconds to be exact, which is 40% longer than without the fan. Pretty significant. Although after that test, I realized that's not how I normally shoot. So for the next test, I went into my studio as I usually do. And this time I also had the mic plugged in, as well as having the Creator app open using the iPad as a monitor. Does a smaller room make a difference with the heat? With no fan, it lasted for 17 minutes and 54 seconds before it shut down. That was 16% less time than with no fan in the bigger room. It was worse in the smaller, stuffier room. Let's see what happens with the fan. This is the real test. Okay, with the fan on, mic in, and iPad on, it lasted for 23 minutes and 20 seconds. Shooting at 4K 60. So that equals to a 32% longer shooting time with the fan on. I think it's safe to say you get somewhere between 30 and 40% longer shooting time without your camera overheating while using this Ulanzi fan. There's no question the fan is helping, but let's be real. First of all, I don't think the workflow of using an iPad as a monitor nonstop with this camera is sustainable. Plus, it just destroys the camera battery so fast, you wouldn't want to use it this way all the time. I bet if I wasn't shooting in such a crazy demanding mode, the fan might keep the camera from overheating pretty much altogether. But with that being said, when I shoot in 4K 24 with just the mic plugged in and I don't use the Creator app, I'll get 40 plus minutes without the camera overheating, and honestly, I don't really need to shoot that long. I thought maybe this fan might let me get away with using those crazy features for an unlimited amount of time, but I don't think it can. It's not magic. Before I share my conclusion, there's one more thing about this fan that needs to be addressed, and that's the noise it makes. With headphones, it's incredibly noticeable. Let's see if you can hear the fan noise when it's on the camera through your speakers. Listen to this. First, this is the built-in mic on the Sony without the fan. Now, here it is with the fan on. Brutal, eh? I usually boom my mic, so here's what it sounds like without the fan running. And now, here it is with the fan. I think having the fan on is usable with the arm boomed, though you can certainly hear it with headphones on. But if you are using the built-in mic with this fan, I don't think it's even usable. I mean, I don't think you buy this fan if you're shooting with the onboard mic, but this was something I didn't even really consider before I bought it. So what do I think about this fan? Will I keep it? Honestly, I think it's pretty cool and does a neat job, but I'm not gonna keep it. For how I want to use this camera, the fan doesn't extend the shooting time as much as I wish it did. Plus it makes noise that's picked up even in my boomed mic, and the battery doesn't seem to last very long either. It's another thing to have to remember to charge and turn on every time I shoot, so for those reasons, I'm going to try and return it. See, instead, I'm gonna change how I shoot. I'd rather just not use the camera in a way that it will inevitably overheat, like when it's in 4K 24, for example, and without using the iPad as a monitor. I can still shoot with that workflow and be happy with my shot for now anyway. Where I think this fan might be worth keeping is if you live somewhere hot and you just wanna shoot in 24 or 30 frames per second for 30 to 60 minutes plus of continual shooting time, then this fan might be a nice peace of mind thing to have. But since I always shoot in a temperature controlled room where this camera can shoot easily in 4K 24 or 30 for 40 minutes plus, I don't need the fan because I don't need to shoot any longer than that. It's taken me a while to figure out that while this camera punches well above its weight when it comes to features per dollar, it comes at a cost. I got excited that I could use my iPad as a monitor. It's just so cool. And I love shooting with the high frame rate for the reasons I mentioned in my last video. I got a taste of all that with this camera, and now I can't do that stuff. So I'm not sure what I'm gonna do. I can't afford to buy the FX3 or even the A7S III, and I don't even know if they could use those features, to be honest. I guess for now, I'll continue to use the iPad to set up my shot, make sure nothing is crooked, then turn it off and use the camera the old-fashioned way with good old-fashioned frame rates. It's not the worst. Well, that's it for today. What do you think? Were you surprised with the results? Did the fan work better or worse in these conditions than you expected? So I did testing a year or so ago with frame rates and found that I liked 30 the best, so that's what I've always used. However, I see most of the big channels using 24 frames per second. Do they know something I don't? Well, I've gotten better and realized a few good reasons why it might be worth trying. I'll talk about that in my next video. In the meantime, if you have a minute, here's what YouTube thinks you'll like to watch next. If you've already seen that, then maybe how about this one? As always, thanks for watching. If you're able to comment, like, or sub to the channel, I really appreciate it. Thank you so much for the support, and we'll see you next time on the SAD Studio. Yeah!